The message arrived on a quiet morning when most people on Earth were still half asleep. It came through an old satellite relay that had been inactive for decades. At first, technicians thought it was background noise or some stray signal from a forgotten probe. But when the distortion cleared, what they heard made every screen flicker with alarm. It was not a call for trade, not a declaration of war, but a desperate cry for help. The voice was trembling, weak and young. It spoke in broken words translated automatically by the Earth Communication Network. "We are taken. We build for them. Please, if you hear us, tell Earth." Silence followed. Then the signal repeated again and again, as if the sender had pressed the same button in hope that someone, anyone, would listen. The coordinates came through faintly, located far beyond the edge of known colonies near a mining world orbiting a dying star. Within hours, the message reached the Global Council. Leaders, scientists, and military officers gathered in a sealed chamber. They played the message 3 times, and each time the same uneasy chill spread through the room. It was not just the plea for rescue that broke them. It was the background sound of machinery and the soft cries of other children. Earth had heard of cruelty in the galaxy before, but never something like this. Humanity had fought wars, rebuilt, and joined the interstellar community. They had learned diplomacy, restraint, and peace. Yet in that single recording, the old fire that once drove explorers and soldiers alike reignited. Captain Elias Trent of the Earth Defense Fleet stood in the briefing room as the footage played again. He was not a man of speeches, but he could feel the weight of the moment pressing on his chest. Across from him, Admiral Raines said in a quiet tone, "We verify the signal first. If it's real, we can't turn away." And so, Earth sent a reconnaissance vessel, the Horizon Dawn. Its mission was simple: confirm, record, and report. The crew numbered 30, chosen for their skills and calm under pressure. They reached the mining system after a month of silent travel through deep space. What they found was worse than the message had hinted. The planet below was stripped bare, its surface dotted with massive factories. The air shimmered with heat and pollution. Slender figures worked endlessly among machines, their small bodies barely able to lift the tools they were given. The children had been taken from different colonies, some human, some from allied worlds, and forced to dig for rare minerals needed for advanced weapons. The overseers were tall, cold-eyed creatures known to trade with anyone who paid well. They had always stayed away from Earth, knowing humans disliked their methods. But somewhere in the galaxy, the line between caution and greed had blurred. They had dared to take what was innocent and unguarded. The Horizon Dawn stayed hidden behind the planet's shadow and recorded everything. Elias watched the footage with clenched fists. He saw a boy fall under the weight of a heavy crate, and no one came to help. He saw a little girl look up at the sky as if she was praying to the stars. He turned off the screen and said, "Transmit it. Let Earth see." When the transmission reached home, there was no debate, no delay. The United Earth Council voted in record time. Every news network, every colony broadcasted the same message. Earth stands with the enslaved. Across cities and stations, people stopped what they were doing. Some cried. Some shouted. Some quietly prepared for what they knew would come next. Humanity had changed over centuries, but not completely. Deep down, they still carried the fire that had once fueled their rise from the cradle. It was not arrogance or hunger for power. It was the unshakable belief that no child, no innocent life, should ever live in chains. In less than a week, the largest peace fleet in history was refitted for war. Ships that once carried supplies now carried hope. Drones were replaced by rescue pods. Weapons were recalibrated not just to destroy, but to protect. Engineers worked sleepless nights, whispering to one another, "We do this for them." When the fleet departed, millions watched from Earth's surface. The night sky lit up with the glow of engines, forming streaks of light that stretched toward the stars. Reporters called it the March of Mercy. Historians would later name it something else, the day the stars blazed for vengeance. The first battle took place at the edge of the mining world's orbit. The slavers had defenses, turrets, drones, and warships, but they were not prepared for the fury of a united Earth. The human fleet did not arrive to conquer. It arrived to liberate. Each pilot remembered the recordings, the voices of frightened children echoing in their helmets. Elias led the assault ship Vanguard. When the first enemy vessel opened fire, he gave a calm order. Target their engines. No escape until every child is free. The Vanguard's cannon struck true, disabling ships rather than annihilating them. The goal was justice, not destruction. Meanwhile, small squads descended to the planet's surface. They moved through the dust and heat, guided by the faint signals of the captives. What they found brought both sorrow and determination. Children stared at the rescuers in disbelief. Some were too weak to stand. Others clung to them silently. A medic named Lena knelt beside a frightened boy. She smiled softly and said, "You're safe now. You're going home." The boy didn't understand the words, but the tone made him cry, not from fear but from relief. By the time the second sun rose over the polluted horizon, every slave camp was empty. The guards had surrendered, realizing there was no victory against a people fighting for others instead of themselves. Elias walked among the survivors as they were led onto shuttles. The air smelled of dust and fuel, but also of freedom. For the first time, he saw hope flicker in their eyes. Above them, Earth's flag shimmered on the hull of the Vanguard, a promise written in steel and light. When the fleet began its return journey, space around them seemed to glow brighter. Word of what happened spread faster than light itself. Across countless worlds, the story became legend. Humanity, once seen as reckless and divided, had united for a cause that was neither profit nor conquest. The rescued children were taken to the orbital stations around Earth, where doctors, teachers, and volunteers waited. Entire communities opened their doors. Music returned to their lives, and the nightmares began to fade. Some were reunited with their families, others were adopted by those who had sworn to protect them. But for Earth, the mission was not over. They did not stop at liberation, they demanded justice. Trials were held under interstellar law. The slavers were brought before the council, not to be executed, but to face what they had denied others: truth. Every recording, every testimony was shown. And in that courtroom among the stars, humanity stood not as conquerors, but as guardians of what was right. Reporters later wrote that no sound in history matched the moment when the gavel fell, declaring the guilty verdict. The universe had seen power before, but not mercy wielded with such strength. Years passed, but the memory did not fade. Every anniversary of the rescue, the skies above Earth glowed with artificial constellations created by drones, tiny lights representing each child saved. People would gather, point to the heavens, and whisper the same words: "We did not look away." Elias retired quietly to a small settlement on the moon. Sometimes he would visit the memorial garden built in honor of the rescued. Children would run past him, laughing, playing under the artificial sun. He would smile, knowing their laughter was the truest sound of victory. One day, a young officer visited him, bringing news of a new alliance forming among worlds once silent. They had seen what Earth did and wanted to join a coalition against slavery of any kind. Elias listened and nodded. "Then we did more than win. We reminded them what it means to be human." In distant systems, stories of Earth's vengeance still traveled. Traders spoke of how humans once crossed galaxies not for gold or land, but for children they had never met. Some called them reckless, others called them heroes. But the most common phrase whispered among the stars was this: "When Earth rises, the unjust tremble." Long after Elias was gone, his ship, the Vanguard, was preserved in orbit as a symbol. School children would visit and press their hands to its hull. A recording played inside, a simple message: "If you ever hear a voice asking for help, do not wait. The stars remember those who act." And so the legacy continued. Humanity learned that strength was not in weapons or ships, but in the courage to defend the innocent. The galaxy learned that when Earth stood up, it did not stand alone. In the end, no one forgot the day the stars burned brighter. Not because of war, but because a world once small and fragile had chosen compassion over fear. That was the moment the universe truly saw what humanity had become. Not conquerors, not tyrants, but protectors who turned vengeance into light. The children grew, carried the story forward, and when they spoke of Earth, their voices were filled with gratitude. They did not speak of soldiers or battles. They spoke of kindness, of rescue, of the people who heard their cry across the void and answered with hope. And somewhere far beyond the stars, the echo of that first message still lingered, no longer a plea for help, but a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, someone will always listen.